join, but now we're officially being recorded. So I'm glad to be here with you guys tonight. I think, as the team that has been meeting consistently each week, Robin and Terry and Nathan and Ed and Greg. Sometimes, we're working out a lot of the kinks. We're hoping that you can um, help us make this what we're going to put forward better. But if you want to start, we're gonna. Oh, where are you going? There you go. If you could put your name in the chat and where you live, what district of Newton you're in, what ward, what precinct. I myself am in 2-3 on the 2-2 line. Literally, like my street across the street is 2-2. I'm 2-3. And I've been in Newton 17 years. And my favorite place to eat, uh, I really like La Posta. I really like their Chilean sea bass. And if you're into fancy Italian food, my name ends in a vowel, so I might be a little biased on the type of food that I like, but I think Newtonville's become
Try it with the headphones.
uh, it's Newtonville has become a center of good food. So anyway, please put in the chat. Get to know each other if you haven't. Some of you I've seen at the State House, and some of you I don't recognize, but maybe you recognize other people in the room. We can move on to the next slide. Do we want to read out some of this stuff in the chat where people are from?
Oh yeah, sure, Tara. I'm seeing Ben Mankeys from Newton Highlands, Ward 6, and Julia Houston and John Dundon from Ward 3, same ward as me. I didn't realize that, Julia. Um, and West Newton and Clover Labs. Totally love Clover, right?
Is Clover West Newton? Come on. Clover is
No,
definitely
no, no.
Newville.
She was saying she lives in West
Oh,
Newton,
okay.
but
All
no,
right.
yeah, it's in your name, Terry. Mark
Sweet.
Ronell.
Oh, I've been wanting to try the Szechuan Gourmet House. Awesome.
It's
Well, thank you again for coming. Again, Robin, Terry, Nathan, myself, we've been meeting every week to try to come up with the best approach for tackling this as a city, and this is what we're going to talk about. We want to lay it all out there and get everybody on the same page before we start approaching some of our city legislators. So with that, I will kick it over to Ed.
Oh, oh yeah. So sorry. Hold on, Tar. You got one more,
Oh, I got one more. There we go.
just real quick here.
Okay, so this is where we've been. We launched last July. Some of you were at the library when we had our first meeting. It was a pretty well attended meeting, a lot of great discussion. I thought the people at Ranked Choice Voting Massachusetts have done awesome, keeping us corralled. We had a policy discussion last October at the Unitarian Universalist Church where we were kind of deciding which direction we wanted to go with building our home rule petition. We're building our own document that we would like to put forth. And then we had the state bill hearing. There were actually twice we went to the State House. Once the leadership team went as a smaller group, and then we had our lobby day, which some of you attended just recently. So those were really great events that have kind of helped us all understand where we are and where we're going. So we now have a document that we're ready to put forth towards this crew to evaluate, and then we'll be moving forward. So voter choice math, Ed Shoemaker, All you. You hear Ed?
Not yet.
There he is.
Hello.
Hey Ed, do you want an assist here? Because I don't want to crash your car trying to read the slides or whatever.
No, it's okay. Well, I guess I'll do a duo type of thing, a quick history lesson, then I'll dive in. So in the classic um, debate term history of the term red herring, red herring is called a red herring because it's like, try to throw somebody off their trail. It's a very cheap debate trick, and it usually involves a rotten piece of fish, right? It's very smelly. It takes people off their trail. So, but in I don't. In fear of doing that, I do have to bring up that I am right now picking up my dog from the animal hospital. She just had surgery, and she may have cancer, and I'm very traumatized by this experience right now. And I hope that you guys can all keep her in your thoughts and your prayers. That's my baby. But we persist because we care about democracy. So in that vein, um, I will pull over and I will read my prepared statement here. Sorry, I'm getting to my parking spot right now. But
Sorry you're going through that, Ed.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, and like I said, don't want to be the rotten piece of fish to throw us off our mission here. So we'll say, hey everyone, I'm Edwin Shoemaker. I'm with Voter Choice Massachusetts, and my job in this section is not to be the rotten piece of fish, but it is to zoom out for 5 minutes and to show where Newton fits into the bigger statewide push, and to win local control, and how we do it municipal election by municipal election, um, by showing different municipalities how we run these elections with ranked choice voting. So first thing, ranked choice voting is not just some niche reform anymore. I think across Massachusetts the support has been broad. A clear majority of voters back it, including strong support, obviously among Democrats, but also among Republicans, and young voters have been consistently a strong bloc. The point isn't the exact number. It's that RCV has moved into what is normal and common sense, right? Territory of what folks think of what is achievable in the state, which is been a great feat. So we should all pat ourselves on the back. Everybody on this call has played a role in that. So when Newton considers RCV, right, you're not stepping out onto this like island on your own. You're joining sort of this statewide wave of cities and towns that have been asking for the same thing, which is pretty much the freedom to choose what works for them locally, right? And here's what the wave looks like right now. Essentially, we have 10 cities and towns that have filed home rule petitions at the state legislature, and more are moving in that direction. Essentially, right, we have Salem, which is like the closest one, right, is actively in the process of filing theirs. And we have also real interest and activity in places like Andover, Bedford, obviously had their late file, they passed theirs. Chelsea, Greenfield, Natick, Needham, Quincy, even we have a meeting with a Quincy city councilwoman tomorrow. Somerville has passed a ranked choice voting review committee. Waltham is firing up. Winchester is going to be doing stuff in their fall and spring town meeting, right, towards ranked choice voting. So that really matters because it changes the political math, even more so than it's already been changed, right? So when lawmakers see, this many communities asking for the same local option authority, it becomes much harder to ignore for them, right? And it's much easier for legislators to say yes, right? It makes it much, even for the ones that want it or want to support, and they're just like, they feel like they be going out on a limb to do it. This gives them that courage to say yes, because they're not taking that leap by themselves anymore, right? So now I wanted to directly connect this to what we covered in the VCMA leadership call earlier today, right? So we came off strong in the Boston and Bedford hearing, right? And it did what we needed it to do, right? It shows serious momentum, credible messengers, visible public demand, right? In the legislature, the local option bill has already been heard, right?
Oh, Ed,
It's
sorry
got.
to interrupt you. We're going to turn it over to Terry for the legislative update, if that's okay.
I apologize. I don't want to dig into that, but
No worries.
I'll wrap it up and say that the takeaway here is that Newton doesn't have to invent this from scratch. You're joining a statewide movement that's already proven two things, right? Voters want more choice, a better process, and communities want local control to implement ranked choice voting. So tonight is about building the base, um, and that makes this clear, right? This makes it real. Neighbors educating neighbors, a core team here that's been dedicated working on this from get go, that grows ward by ward, and then the confidence to bring it to the city council and to the mayor when the moment is right. So with that, I'll hand it
Thank
off to
you,
Terry,
Ed.
and the legislative update. And thank you all. Appreciate it.
Before we move on, I just want to appreciate the fact that Representative Amy Sangiolo has joined the call with us. She's been very supportive of us moving forward. So thank you, Amy, for taking time, I know, out of your really busy schedule.
Yeah, thank you. If you'd like to say a couple words to folks about your interest in ranked choice voting, you're welcome to. I don't want to put you on the spot either, Amy, but really appreciate your joining.
Oh, that's okay. I wanted to join. Tara invited me to the meeting, and I'm happy to be able to carve out some time to pop in. I think you guys have really covered it. I guess Ed pretty much went through where the process is, and I guess you're going to have the next speaker talk. Maybe it's Terry, go through the legislative process. But he's right. There are a number of communities who have filed. I think the momentum is there. I signed on to the bill for the local option because I think it's too onerous for every community to have to go and file a home rule petition. And then, let each community decide whether they want it or not, right? That's not something for me, but that's something for each community to decide whether they want to opt in. So that's where I stand. I'm happy to become a resource and track the bill for you guys as best I can.
Thank you, Amy. Terry, you want to?
Awesome.
Sorry, just took me a second to find the unmute button. But yes, thank you so much, Amy, for being here. Great overview from Ed. Really great to be here tonight with Roben, Tara, Nathan, Ed, and everyone else here. So last November, there was testimony for the local option bill. Back then, it was S31. Now it's S2911. Thankfully, there was a committee vote on it at the beginning of last month in January, and it was reported favorably, 5 votes in favor, 1 against, and one of the 5 votes was our own state rep, Cynthia Cream. So we really appreciate that Senate Majority Leader Cream voted in favor to send this bill out of committee, and now it's currently sitting on the Senate Ways and Means Committee. There is a version of this bill in the House, although it's still on the docket. But once it clears the Senate, or during the process clearing the Senate, we're hoping that that bill passes the House as well. So that was really great. There's also a really good video recap, so I'm going to post that in the chat of the video recap in case you all want to know what the hearing was, because we had advocates not just from Newton. Roben testified, I testified, I believe Tara also testified as well. Nathan testified, and so did Ed. But there also were other leaders, a bunch of leaders from Salem. There was a city councilor from Chelsea. We had leaders from all across the state testifying in favor of it. And there was a lot of excitement. So we're really hoping this is the year we can get the local option bill not only to get floor votes in the Senate, but also out of committee in the House and a floor vote in the House as well. And we really appreciate that Amy's on board. And there's also going to be home rule petitions as well. So while this bill has been voted on, it goes going through legislature to allow municipalities to implement ranked choice voting without home. Some municipalities like Concord, for instance, they have been pushing for this for years upon years. So the town has already voted multiple times to authorize it, and they have home rule petitions, and there are other municipalities that have it as well, including our neighbor in Brookline, Boston, and then most recently Bedford also submitted a home rule petition. So I'm going to post all of that in the chat as well. Nathan, how am I doing for time?
We're a little behind. It's a good point to pass to Greg.
Okay, so in that case,
Catch us up.
I think I'll pass it on just for sake of time. If anyone has any questions, more than happy to answer those questions, and I'll put all my links in the chat then.
Great
job.
Greg's going to do
Sorry.
us about what Newton can look like.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I'm Greg Dennis, Policy Director for Voter Choice. I'm going to go through some of the policy, what it would look like in Massachusetts. So to just set the stage, here are some facts and numbers about Newton, some of which you probably knew or as a reminder for others. So the population is about 91,000 people. In 2026, 62,000 registered voters. A plurality of unenrolled, actually 36,000 unenrolled, 23,000 Democrats, and so on. Here are the 2024 presidential numbers, probably not surprising. Like every city in Massachusetts, it holds municipal elections every 2 years in odd numbered years. Like most cities, or nearly all cities, it does so with a two-stage election process, always a November general election. And then if enough candidates run, there's a September preliminary election to narrow down the field. A preliminary is held if the number of candidates, a preliminary is held in a race if the number of candidates in that race is more than twice the number of seats being elected. The turnout in 2021 mayoral elections between 21,000, 25,000, 2027. You see some of those other turnout numbers here. One key takeaway on turnout is that the preliminary election turnout is much lower than general election turnout, as you might be aware, and that's one of the problems we're going to fix. So we'll go to the next slide. You elect sort of 3 or maybe 4 types of offices in Newton. You elect the mayor, you elect ward councilors, at-large councilors, and school committee member. Obviously, one mayor citywide. Each of the 8 wards elects one ward councilor by the district, somebody who lives in the district and is elected by the district, and then 2 at-large councilors elected, what's sometimes called from district. They live in the district, but they're elected by voters citywide. Elections from district are not uncommon nationally, but very uncommon in Massachusetts. I'm not sure any other municipality has them. And then 1 school committee member per ward. And then again, preliminary elections are held for mayor and ward and school committee, ward, city council, and school committee. If more than 2 candidates run, you have a preliminary election that narrows the field down to 2. And if you have 4 or more candidates, more than 4 candidates run for the at-large councilors, and you have the preliminary election to narrow it down to 4. That's the election setup. How does ranked choice voting look to the voter? Well, the voter experience, the ballot looks like a grid where the candidate names are along the left-hand side. You still have your write-in spots, and you have the ranks for those candidates along the top. And the voter fills in the 1 bubble next to their first choice candidate. And then if they have a second choice, they fill in the second choice bubble next to their second choice candidate, the third choice bubble next to the third choice candidate. They rank as many or as few as they want. They only need to rank 1 to have a valid ballot. Just like today, you have to vote for a person for your vote to be valid or counted. And they can stop ranking whenever they wish. And because ranked choice voting narrows the field down automatically, we have no more need for the preliminary election. So we can just do away with those, and there's a lot of benefits to that. The function of the preliminary election is to narrow down the field, and in these single seat races guarantees the winner has a majority in the general, and then we don't need that anymore because ranked choice voting will find a majority winner in a single election. And in the at-large races, it'll ensure that an even greater number of voters see one of their top choices elected to one of the two slots. So I talked about some of the benefits already, but the elimination of the preliminary is going to mean that elections are cheaper, faster, easier to run, less money for the city. It's going to mean more voices and choices for voters in the general election. Today, because of the preliminary, there's a very small number of voters that get to decide who appears in the general election ballot. And if your candidate doesn't appear in the general election ballot today, you have less reason to turn out. That explains the turnout boost we've seen, a 17% turnout boost in recent research when ranked choice voting is used in odd year municipal elections. The elimination of the spoiler effect from ranked choice voting removes some barriers for candidate entry. Candidates today are often told to wait their turn, don't enter the race, you're going to split the vote. So that argument for them staying out of the race goes away. There's incentive in the at-large races for what's called bullet voting, sometimes just voting for your first choice, even though you can vote for up to two in the at-large seats. You can still vote for just one if you want, but there's no strategic incentive to do so anymore under ranked choice. And we're going to get more accurate representation as a result. Now, here's a draft home rule petition we put together. If you want to bring this up in its own.
Can you throw that in the chat, the link to that in the chat?
Sure. There we go. So this follows a standard template that many of the other cities and towns have used. So this is something that is a working copy of a legitimate home rule petition to take this city council and ask them to pass. Now, inevitably, it would go to the city's law department, the city's solicitor, and they'd probably find little things they want to tweak, and that's fine. But this is probably a very close approximation of what would ultimately be passed. So it says at the top, the charter of the city of Newton is hereby amended by striking out section 8.3 and inserting in place the following section. So section 8.3 today talks about preliminary elections. So those go away. So we just replace that section with ranked choice voting because that's what's happening here. There's a number of definitions. Subsection B talks about how we elect single seat offices. Section C, the at-large or multi-seat office. B says we're going to use ranked choice voting for all city elections, which is mayor, city council, school committee. C talks about it being applied to single seat elections. D to those at-large multi-seat elections. And then if you scroll down, E deals with tie breaking. F gives the city clerk standard power to promulgate regulations. And then one thing we didn't talk about is that even if the city council passes it, and even if the mayor then signs it, and then even if the legislature passes it, this still, according to this home rule petition, the way it's written, must appear before voters on the ballot to be approved. So really, this is not about even whether we want it, whether the city council wants it, whether the legislature wants it. It's about whether we give the voters the opportunity to vote on whether they want it. Are we going to let the voters have a say? And that's what this is about. And that's it. That's how it works.
Can everybody access the document now?
This is great. We already have a hand raised. It's perfect. But first, anyone who can't access the doc, let us know. Rebecca, please. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Greg Dennis. It's so nice to see you. So just to preface this by saying I'm a big fan of ranked choice voting, but I'm wondering, because I don't know, what happens if a voter makes a mistake or marks two different candidates with the same rank because they don't understand how it works? Does it nullify the ballot or is it handled another way?
Okay, so the rules, so first of all, the voting machines tend to reject a lot of different kinds of mistakes. So if you submit a ballot today in a Newton election today, or even a local, state, or national election today, and you vote for two people for state rep, what happens is the machine spits the ballot back out to you and you get an opportunity to cast a new ballot. So the same thing would happen in ranked choice voting if somebody voted for multiple candidates for their second choice, for example.
Oh,
Now, so that there's that. Uh, you know, however, every voter has the right to submit any ballot they want. So if they say you can scribble across the ballot, you can mark it up in all kinds of ways, the machine will spit it back out, and you say, no, this is what I intended. So if a voter says, nah, go with it, the rules are generous to interpret the ballot in the giving the voter sort of the maximal say that's possible. So if they vote for one candidate for their first choice, another candidate for their second choice, and for some reason vote for two candidates for their third choice, that's treated as if they voted for the first and second candidates and left the rest of the ballot blank. So the rules are generous in terms of interpreting the voter intent for different kinds of ways the voter might mistakenly mark the ballot.
okay. And then that's very helpful. My second question is this, it sounds like this is only going to be for municipal elections and there's no plan to do this for state or federal elections?
Yeah, this is about municipal elections. It wouldn't really be possible for Newton to, or any real city or town to do it independently for state elections, but they can do it independently for their municipal elections.
And then the end goal is to kind of have enough municipalities that do it, that sort of pushes the state to do it statewide.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd
Get
say the goal.
momentum, right?
Momentum.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, and in the process, improve Newton's elections. It's not just to, we also want to improve Newton's elections. We also want to improve municipal elections very much so, and that's what this is fundamentally about. But it has the added benefit that it normalizes the reform. It shows people how it works. It demystifies it and does build momentum for statewide implementation. Absolutely.
Thanks for asking the questions, and thanks for explaining, Greg. We have another question from Ben, and then Julia and John.
Well, I'm
Well,
cheating.
comment.
This was not actually a question. I was just going to follow up on the prior question. It happens not entirely randomly that I'm an election inspector for the city of Newton, and so I work the polls every cycle. And I was just going to sort of add some commentary to Rebecca. Everything Greg said is spot on. And in addition, the dynamic where voters get confused by the ballot is a routine thing that comes up in every election cycle. I would estimate, as a poll worker, 95% of people who show up to vote in person know who they're voting for. They're in and out the door in a couple of minutes. There's no confusion. And then every cycle, there's a small number of people who have just moved to the city, are confused by the ballot. They have some set of questions. And here I just say, there are very specific laws passed in Massachusetts to protect the integrity of elections, which we who work at the polls need to uphold. So there's very specific training we go through that is how we help people cast their votes consistent with their intentions and make sure we do that consistent with election law. None of that would change under ranked choice voting. We who work the polls would do the exact same thing we've always done, which is to help people vote consistent with their intentions, and we do it consistent with election law. And so the change from ranked choice voting would not change anything about the way that we support voters in sort of achieving the outcomes they want.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. Julia and John, or John, yes?
Yeah, hi.
I saw your point.
Thank you for running this meeting. It's educational for me. One issue that I see persistently in Newton is that I don't know how this relates to, but we have so many unopposed elections. So, I think a lot of voters get turned off on voting because they're like, I'm just checking a box for somebody who has no opposition. What is there anything that this would do you think, to motivate, more competition in particular our city council elections? It seems because we have 24 of them, which is a lot. It may not make any difference at all, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think to start, I mean, let's look at some past elections, right? So there was a mayoral election where you've had some mayoral elections where there were three candidates in the preliminary and the field was narrowed down to two. And so voters only get to see two candidates in the general. And so you'd have that kind of competition of moving to like from 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 in the general election, and you'd have increased competition that way. I think there's also a degree to which this changes the culture of running. Right now, there's a culture of you should only run if it's your turn. You should only run if you're not going to split the vote or you don't have something nuanced or different to say. You should only run if you're a traditional candidate. And I think this changes the mindset where you run if you have a base of support and you have something to contribute to the conversation. So I do think we will see greater competition. You will see greater candidate entry. That's what they've seen in other municipalities because it changes sort of the culture and mind frame of what it means to run and who should run.
I would just love to touch on that a little bit. My objective in being a part of the ranked choice voting movement in general has been to give amplification to voices that otherwise wouldn't have been heard. We in our political system have a heavy degree of pendulum politics that exists, and so even in our municipality, we can be somewhat reactive, like a metronome, and there are people who run simply because they feel like nobody should run unopposed, or but their heart's not in it necessarily, or there's no base there to pull from. I think there's a lot of people that don't identify as left or right anymore, or Republican or Democrat. A lot of people are pulling away from these identities per se. And, they just want to represent themselves. They want to represent their core ideas. I spent a lot of time working with the libertarian movement. And I think that, the libertarians have definitely come out in support of ranked choice voting as a solution to this hyperpolarization in these two camps that we have in our current political infrastructure. A lot of municipal races are not partisan at all. However, you do tend to have these factions that still exist within municipal politics. So I think that the Republican wing of Massachusetts, the very Republican, and many have been critical of ranked choice voting because it feels like there's so many progressives in towns that the conservative voice won't be able to be heard. I think very differently. I think there's opportunity for nuance and discussion, and that's what ranked choice voting brings to our local elections. Is it's not just about this, my team or my tribe or my name. It's about the nuance that we're able to bring to the politics that we have, and hopefully eliminate the kinds of hyperpartisanship that keep people away from the polls.
And picking up on a money comment or a funding comment in the chat, if you run today, you have to be prepared to run a campaign that sustained campaign both through the preliminary and the general election. You have to be prepared to run like for 2 elections and 2 election dates. And if we eliminate the preliminary, we've reduced the amount of money that you need to get your message out there for a single day. And that could mean greater candidate entry as well.
Oh, I just
Thank
noticed
you.
Ben. Sorry, my apologies. I just noticed Ben had his hand up.
Well, I don't want to derail us, so I'm going to encourage the moderators to rein me in if I'm talking too much and getting us off track. I'm dating myself a little bit, but folks who have been around Newton City politics for a while, Amy certainly remembers this. We all went through a rather traumatic experience a number of years ago with a proposed charter change that would have changed the structure of the Newton City Council. Now that the advocates of that change, and I'm going to stay on the sidelines of whether that change would have been good or bad, but the advocates of the change were trying to create more competition and address the problem of people running unopposed for city council seats. The proposed change was shot down. There was blood soaking the floors of City Hall. It was just brutal. And so I bring this all up to say a bunch of us were in favor of ranked choice voting in Newton when we started building relationships and talking to city councilors and Newton city officials about this a number of years ago, made a very intentional decision to not position ranked choice voting as being an instrument of any particular faction in Newton city politics. It was very important to us that we were not associated with either the pro-charter change people or the anti-charter change people. We were not pro-real estate development or anti-real estate development. We were not Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative. We were about improving elections for everybody. And I think it would be savvy of us to try to keep holding that line. If we allow ourselves to be pigeonholed, or if we allow ourselves to start being associated with some part of the political spectrum or some existing faction, we've created a reason for a whole bunch of potential allies to line up against us. And that's tough. I will freely admit to you that's hard to do. It's hard to go into something and just be sort of a single issue advocate. But I think it's a path of less rockiness and disruption. So wherever it's worth.
I would just say also that we worked really hard. We had a lot of conversations about the charter changes proposed in Newton and how that went down and how we don't want to step on any landmines that are going to blow this to smithereens. We think this is a really good change for Newton in a positive light. And we don't want to get mired in what it would take to change the charter. And so the language that we chose was very specific to just align with the charter and amend the charter to include this kind of adjustment.
Yeah, so I've stopped fair temporarily to Julia had a great point, so we can more fully see all of each other here. So thank you, Julia.
Oh, smart.
Yeah. Now,
Look at that.
So how are we doing with, so great questions. Do we have time to answer a few more if there are any? Otherwise, we can keep moving.
Nathan, I just wanted to ask, I saw that Amy, you'd been unmuted in case you had wanted to share something again. And Mark, I saw you unmuted just in case you had wanted to share something.
Oh, Roben, before I forget.
And Terry, sorry.
I'm more than happy to weigh in all that just because I want folks to weigh in, and I think we've had a really good discussion. I really appreciate the points that Tara and Ben brought up. And Julia, you'll be next. I did want to acknowledge that we have City Councilor Stephen Farrell from Ward 8 here. So welcome so much, Stephen. Really great to have you here on the Zoom. And then Julia, you're next.
That's so funny because the first part of my question was, why aren't there any city councilors on this Zoom? And so I'm really happy that we have one. So I understand based on the process that you laid out that it first goes to the city councilor, then the city council, then the mayor, then the Massachusetts legislature, then like all the Massachusetts voters on the ballot. So that's a lot. Are there champions already on the city council? Is the city council engaging with this? Should we be asking them to engage with this?
So that's a great question, Julia. I'm going to suggest that's like the next thing up after we do Q&A on this. Are you okay if we just kick that down one section? Thanks so much.
Nathan, is that also where we would address Rebecca's question about the timeline for the overall campaign?
I think so. And I think that's great that these questions are coming up. Amy
so
also
before we move
Amy Sangiolo about city councils thinking about reducing size of the council now to 16, eliminating one of the at-large seats. Thanks for sharing that, Amy. One thing that I was impressed to learn about the way that Greg has prepared been preparing these draft RCV home rule petitions for cities and towns is it's really about, it really just is you folks have been talking about, just makes this targeted change, using ranked choice voting rather than the current ballots. And going forward, the city can continue to make whatever adjustments it wants to its election structures. And the RCV, the way the language is, the RCV just stays in place and the home rule petition covers, isn't affected by subsequent changes, which is kind of useful. Sorry, Robin, turn it back to you to see if there's any more questions.
Rebecca, you sure? I saw you. If you twitch in front of me, you get called on. And Stephen Farrell, welcome. Good to see
So,
you.
so
Yes.
there's going to be multi-tier efforts towards this. Some is going to be engaging city council members. Some is going to be educating the community about how RCV works. And we want people to be involved in that process. Some of that has already taken place with, how this has all come together. So there's stages of this, and there's ways that people can play a role in it. Obviously, Representative Sangiolo, you have a space that is different from others, and Councilman Farrell, you have a space. We'd love to hear what you understand about RCV and the challenges that you think we might be facing as we move forward in this effort. But there's room for people to get involved, and it's really important that we take this time to educate ourselves and then go out into our communities and have these conversations so that more people can understand how this is going to work. Because I think the biggest challenge to RCV is people think it's too cumbersome to understand. But hopefully we'll be able to answer all the questions you have here so that you can take this back to your communities, and we could devise a strategy for community outreach on this. Councilman Farrell, do you have any input that you want to share?
Well, first of all, thank you. I apologize for being late. I was on an earlier Zoom meeting. I've been a long supporter for RCV for years, actually. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you would like to do in Newton. I really look forward to finally paying off a dinner debt that I have to Representative Sangiolo. Maybe she and I can get together and chat about a strategy that will support what you're trying to do. I think this is a terrific idea. I have, as I say, for years. Not only did I get on late, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to get off early. So please keep in touch with me.
Councilman Farrell, do you have the link? Have you opened the link with the actual verbiage that we're looking to put forward? I put that in the chat.
I have not.
Sometimes Zoom won't share it with you. Like at late entries, only see the chats that came after.
So yes, as soon as he entered the room, I reposted it. So
oh, great. Okay.
Right.
That's fantastic.
There in his feed.
Okay.
I'm not technologically challenged given my generation, but
is there a chat?
Yeah, and we can email. We can.
Okay.
I'm sure
that's true. We can follow
up with these.
That would be great. Please follow up with me. And as I say, I will make a great effort to get in touch with Representative Santiello and see how we can support what you're trying to do. But I can tell you now, I'm very supportive about this, and hope that we can work together to make it happen in Newton.
Thank you so much for joining us.
And I'm sorry it is so brief, but please know of my support and get in touch with me as soon as you can. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rep Sangiolo, now that you have the verbiage in front of you, is there any, and you're also an important resident of Newton, is there anything in the verbiage that is making you pause or is making you or that you want to highlight now that you've seen it?
So I sort of just briefly glanced through it, so I didn't really go and read it in detail. So I'd read it in detail. I was just asking in the chat if there was a champion. After hearing Stephen Farrell, I think maybe Stephen could be your champion to move this along. I think the sooner you get it docketed, the better, because city council movement can be slow. For good reason, because they like to think about things in depth and weigh the pros and cons. And I think given that the city council is looking at, I think they're looking at compensation, right? And they're looking at composition of the council and the makeup. I think it might be a good time to also put this in sort of their realm of thought, right? Let's think about, how we do our elections, and let's look at ranked choice voting as an option. So I would just suggest that maybe if you can get this moving, that'd be great. But at the same time, we got to move it, the local option through the State House, right? So I saw that I put in a request, but it's still apparently in rules. So my request hasn't added my name to the docket item in the House. So I'm sorry about that.
We know you're coming on board. Thank you.
I'm coming. So, you just have to gotta wait for the process to go through.
All
Thank
right,
you,
so
Amy. Ben,
thank
we're
you.
going to move on. So I hope you get to put your question or comment perhaps in the chat. Go ahead, Nathan. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Ben, did you have something real quick before we go to the next section?
Well, I think Nathan was trying to move us along. So I'll let Nathan move us along and I'll put it in the chat.
All right. No, well, thank you, Rep. Sangelo, for sharing that. Terry, just real quick before we move on, he made a good point that Councilors Wright and Malachi were at our meeting in July. So there has been some council engagement in addition to Councilman Farrell. But this is all a great segue into the last thing, which I think folks are already chomping at the bit on, which is, what are we going to do to make this happen? And I think folks have touched on this, so this should be pretty quick. Organize and educate Newton. As Ed was saying in the earlier slide, that's a relatively easy lift for Newton because there is so much interest in ranked choice voting already. There was 64% support for the 2020 ballot measure. And we know that there's a lot of very high information voters in Newton. That said, people are busy with a lot of things, and restarting the conversation with folks for folks who missed it in 2020, helping them understand what you learned tonight from Greg about what it would mean for Newton. So we need to, as we're bringing it to the city council, we also need to bring it to other folks in Newton so that it's everybody's moving forward together. So to that extent, Terry and Tara and Robin are always looking for more folks to work with. They could use, what's one of the beautiful things about tonight is we have folks from, it looks like a pretty diverse cross section of the wards in Newton. So I saw just at the beginning, there was like 2, 4, 6, and 8. And maybe we even got some of the odd numbers too as people came in. So that's good. If you would be interested in, working with Terry and Robin and Tara as a ward captain to sort of like help coordinate, the events and education things in your district, or make suggestions about council outreach for your ward counselor, just put in the chat that you would be interested in. We would welcome any and all of you to do that. In addition to ward captains, we just need folks who are interested in volunteering in some way. And really, again, it's all about people stuff. So it's volunteering to either reach out to local organizations and set up, little presentations for them about the opportunity, or maybe do a house party with friends and neighbors, that sort of thing, or just go and table some of the wonderful events you already have in Newton. So go get a little table at whatever, Newton spring event you have, and talk to people about this opportunity and invite them to get involved as well. So that's the organize and educate piece. If you've worked on other issues before, similar process. Prepare election administrators. It's great. You're really thankful to have Ben here with us tonight, and others who have been close to the election processes. Talking to the city clerk's office and just engaging them early and as much as they want to help them wrap their head around the issue, so that when the city council or the mayor gives them a call to say, what do you think about this? They're well informed and feel like confident in their understanding of the issue. My understanding, and Greg could speak more to this, or probably some of the Newton folks, is that Newton will soon be going through, in addition to the changes that Amy talked about, I think you folks are upgrading your election equipment soon. So good, like Amy was saying with the council, good to get this in early with that conversation as well, possibly. And so if you'd like to be part of that process, Greg is willing to be a resource. He's, as you can probably tell from hearing him talk, an incredible resource on a lot of things, including RCV equipment and processes, but get that convo going. And finally, I think what a lot of folks have been talking tonight, which is obviously super essential, is the advocating and so connecting with the city councilors and ultimately the mayor. And as you get more folks that are interested in this, getting them in contact to tell their stories and share with them why they think this would be a good thing for Newton. So with that, I don't want to belabor it. Open it up for any questions about the process aspect.
Nathan, I want to come back to Rebecca's question about timeline, and to Amy's point about getting it on the docket soon. Are we talking about this fall, right?
So this is a really good question. I mean, I think
Maybe.
you have the opportunity to move. This is kind of where the Newton RCV team and the folks that want to be part of that really are going to make the difference. Like if folks like the folks on this call want to get involved and move that along more quickly, I know that Greg and VCMA are ready to support you with things like the home rule petition language, like they did, and anything else that we can be helpful with. But to some extent, it could go really fast. There's nothing that should hold you back. It's really about how quickly can you get people involved in talking to their neighbors. And so I don't know if it's a very satisfying answer, Rebecca. What are your thoughts on it?
Sorry, I can see Ben has his hand up, but it's always helpful, I feel like, in campaigns to know like what the timeline looks like and what the goal is. And is this going to be like a campaign that's built up over time for Newton? Has it already launched and it's just a matter of doing these meetings? Like what sort of is there going to be a follow-up meeting from this? I guess I'm just sort of thinking like, or is this a one and
Yes.
done?
Yeah.
No.
Or maybe you don't.
That's a really good point. So maybe someone mentioned earlier, but I think to underscore it. So what does it mean to be involved in this? So right now, Robin and Tara and Terry are meeting weekly, and we meet with them to support them. We think, that group needs to get a larger group on a weekly cadence and put that timeline together. I think that's 100%. I think this was kind of the first big meeting they've had in that timeline since in Newton since October. So I think this is really the jumping off point where they want to, grow the folks that are actively involved and then work with them to put together something that they can realistically bite off, I guess. And so, but I would say anyone on this call that wants to be involved, put your name in the chat and we'll start inviting you to those weekly meetings. You don't have to come every week, but just, moving it, get that timeline in place and then have enough coordination that we can keep each other moving forward, basically. I guess timeline what could it be? I'm going to defer to the folks here, but I mean, I think 2 months to get it in front of the council in a formal way would be aggressive. I will say that the folks in Salem, sometimes the timeline can accelerate more than you think. Salem was working on this for a couple of years, literally, and then they elected a slate of councilors got elected that this was a big issue for them, and they just, it's about to go to home rule petition in a couple weeks. Um, so yes, I agree. We should plan, and then be prepared to see our plans go faster or slower than we expected them to.
Yeah, I mean, that home rule petition conversation at the state level is going to amplify the kinds of conversations that we're trying to have within our city council as well. So, there'll be a lot of discussion, I think, around it as it becomes more of a reality and other towns are able to see the fruits of their labor on this.
Yeah, but that's absolutely true. And just let's say this group left tonight and you all went and started talking to your counselors. If Counselor Farrell, for example, decided, oh, this is great, why am I waiting? And he finds that there's a lot of folks that agree with him on the council, he could roll this out in a meeting in 2 weeks, bring it up and, get it to council, get it introduced in a month. It could go that fast. And then it would probably be in this group's interest to just say, okay, it's sort of going to be going in two tracks. because this home rule process is kind of slow in a way because you have so many levels of approval. So you could say, we just want to get the process going, and then we're going to do the voter education and more deeper advocacy by voters in parallel as the home rule petition moves down the track. That could be a very legitimate strategy as well. But I guess, to be honest with you, Rebecca, we didn't come with that timeline and campaign plan, but it totally should be a top priority for Newton. It's a great point.
And
You can help us develop that when you join us. But I see Ben's had his hand up for a while, and then Julia just added it. Oh, we've got 2 minutes left on the clock.
Fair enough. I'm going to make a quick plug for a particular part of the timeline, and I'm building on a bunch of information Greg shared a while ago, which was spot on. I've spent a bunch of time going through the election results in the city of Newton. And what you will see is that there is a large majority of the city that supports ranked choice voting. In the statewide ballot initiative in 2020, we were between 70 and 80% of the city voted in favor. However, here's the catch. A lot of those supporters are intermittent voters. And in Newton, you can have low turnout elections, which is municipal elections for which there is not a galvanizing statewide or national race. Elections for city council or mayor where there's not a statewide or national race, you're going to get 10 to 20% of the city turning out. And in a low turnout election, ranked choice voting is going to be a very dodgy proposition. However, if you can line up the last stage, as I understood Nathan's timeline, the very last stage of this is going to be a citywide ballot initiative vote. Okay. We want that vote to be a high turnout election. And the high turnout elections are going to be when there's a contested race for governor, or there's a contested race for president. We know there's going to be one of those coming up in November of 2028. And I don't know what's going on with the governor's race, but I would say, to Nathan's point, yes, full speed ahead on talking to the city council. The sooner we can get this through the city council and through the mayor, those are two potential bottlenecks that we've just solved. Then you have time to work it through the state. And then I would try to line up the last part of this. So you've got a contested governor's race or a contested presidential race in the exact same November that you're bringing this up for your citywide vote. Because if you line this up for a high turnout race, it will carry the day easily. In a low turnout race,
Ben,
you're playing with fire. Yeah.
Helpful strategy. Julia. Julia had her hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, so my question is very pragmatic. So I will talk to my city councilor about this. I think she'll be interested, Andrea Kelly, and I talk with her about other things. But I'd like to know, like in terms of giving her resources. So Roben, Tara, and Terry, you're clearly organized. You're part of some group. Is that Voter Choice Mass? Is it a different group? Do you have a website? Is there a place where I can always go to see the current status of what you're doing and give that to my city councilors?
Yeah, so we have a couple of,
Great question.
Terry, Roben, myself are simply residents of Newton who stepped up at the very first meeting to kind of take on leadership roles in guiding this forward. So we don't have a website. However, because we have Roben Torosyan, we have the most succinct documents that have been put together about how this has come about, and every detail has been captured. But I think the most important thing to give to your city councilor is the verbiage that we're going to use. And, so they can talk about how this all comes together. Now, Voter Choice Massachusetts, I've been involved with since its conception. I also am part of the advisory team for Rank the Vote. So I think there's different tiers of this but I've lived in Newton for 17 years, so that's my tie here. I'm coming at this from a resident of Newton, from a voter in Newton. And so there's no outside effort here, except for the support that we've been getting from VCMA, which has been some pretty critical for us, especially having continuity from the initial ballot initiative. And the people who were interested in that.
Great points. A couple of things. Yeah, so Voter Choice Massachusetts, in addition to working with great folks in Newton, has been working with other cities and towns. We've helped them get websites stood up, and we can help do that, because that would be really useful resources you're mentioning, I think, Julia, as advocates, where we can get these resources in one place, just make it really easy for you to point other folks at them. I think you do have a Facebook page, but you're going to need a website to, I think, do what you want there.
And I should know,
Okay.
That'll be good discussion for Friday.
Yeah, that's true.
Terry, you're gonna get in a last word?
Yeah, I was just going to say briefly, I did put the link in the chat. For some weird reason, it didn't link the full URL, so it's a hyperlink. But if you just click that, if you're on Facebook or like me, you're too addicted to Facebook, make sure to follow our page. We'll make sure to post updates there, and especially upcoming meetings as well. And if there are folks who are like social media gurus and want to go at it, feel free to do so. Just don't say anything like "Go Buffalo Bills."
Yeah, and just to Ben's point about the strategy, I think what he's saying is true.
Nathan, if we're gonna go overtime, can we just in case anyone has to go, like thank everybody at this point, and then I would love to have a little after party for those who do want to stay a few more minutes. We could have our little after party. Not quite the house party yet. And
Yeah,
I saw your applause, Ben. Thank you, everybody.
We should
who
wrap
did
up.
make it.
I appreciate it, Robin. But yeah, so do you want to close this out? So I thanks everybody for coming. This is great. We'll probably, if it's okay, we're going to follow up with everybody via email and phone. Does anyone have any final words they want to close this out with?
I really appreciate everybody for coming, and I'm really excited to make this really positive change for our city together.
I loved all the engagement. Thank you, everybody, for all the questions and the rich engagement. This is really, we're digging in.
Yeah, fantastic. Great to meet everyone.
Definitely. Thank you so much for being here. I've got to say, I'm really excited by the turnout. I think once, especially on the legislative end, if we can get the local option bill passed, it's going to make our lives easier. So especially if you know friends in other districts, make sure to make sure to let them know to call their state rep or email their state rep or senator to support the local option bill in their respective chambers. So just want to throw that out there.
I just put a question in the chat. There are listening tours with the mayor. I'm planning on going to mine on Sunday, and he is traveling to the different woods. Would it be too aggressive or too soon to bring this up to him as maybe a thought to consider?
I think it's fun to start talking to him about it. It's great to see the energy in this room tonight, Nathan. And I think, I wouldn't, press him too hard on it, but let him know what's going on and let him know that a lot of people are talking about it and that, it's something the people will be talking to the city council about, and you would love his support. And if you'd like to learn more, you'd like to engage him more on it.
Yeah, Robin, to answer your question, there's different woods he is going to around the city. I can find the link. I can do
Which
that.
ward is yours that he's coming to Sunday?
2, but
Gotcha.
you don't have to live in the ward to attend. This is the link to sign up for the different listening sessions. There's one tomorrow night, there's 2 on Sunday, and there's one later in March, and there's a virtual one. You can find the link here to sign up if anyone is interested in going and talking about this. It was just a thought I literally had 5 minutes ago.
Fantastic. That's great.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan. Very cool.
I'm gonna have to jump off, guys, but I really appreciate everybody coming together. Ed, I'll be praying for your puppy, and call me if you need a friend.
We just got her home. She's got her little cone.
Puppy in here.
Aw.
She's
She's
sweet looking.
feeling better. Good girl.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'll see you. Hopefully, I'll see some of you on Friday.
All right. Have a great one.
That
Thank you.
concludes. Thanks, everybody.